Look at her face. Right now, somewhere in a museum case, or stamped into a temple pediment 2,000 years old, that face is still doing its job. It turns the living to stone. It always has, but this is not the face of a monster who was born to kill you. This is the face of a woman who was punished for surviving something, and the god who did it to her was never punished at all. Her name was Medusa, before the snakes, before the shield. The old poets who wrote her down first, the ones 800 years older than the version you actually know, said she was simply born this way. A daughter of the sea, monstrous from her first breath, one of 3 sisters who lived at the edge of the map, past the last known shore. But a different poet, centuries later, told it differently. In his version, Medusa was the most beautiful woman in Greece. Not divine, not cursed, just beautiful in a way that people traveled to see. Her hair, especially. Suitors came from cities that had never heard her name, just to look at it. Her name, Medusa, means something close to guardian, protector. She never got to protect anything, not even herself. She served in the temple of Athena, goddess of wisdom, war, and a very specific kind of justice. It should have been the safest place in the world for her. Poseidon noticed her too, god of the sea, brother to Zeus, a god who was used to taking what he wanted and never once being told no in a way that mattered. He wanted Medusa. What happens next depends on which version you're standing in. In the oldest telling, he meets her in a soft meadow in spring, and the story simply moves on. That's what gods did to mortals, and no one in that version thinks to ask if she agreed. In the version that actually survived into the world you live in, he finds her somewhere much worse. Inside Athena's temple, on the goddess's own floor, in the one room in the ancient world that was supposed to belong entirely to her, Poseidon corners Medusa there and takes what he came for, and the temple does nothing to stop him, because temples don't stop gods, only mortals who owe them respect. Medusa didn't choose that room, she didn't choose him, but when the goddess of that temple found out what had happened inside it, there was exactly one person she was willing to make pay for it. It wasn't Poseidon. Athena couldn't touch him, he outranked her. An Olympian punishing an Olympian was not a thing that happened. Not for this. So she turned on the only person in that room with less power than a god. She took the hair that half of Greece had traveled to see and turned every strand into a living serpent. She took the face that made men fall in love on sight and rebuilt it into something that could never be looked at again. Not out of hatred, not out of disgust, but as a weapon. One look, and flesh turned to stone. Medusa hadn't committed a single crime. She was simply the only one in the story a goddess was allowed to punish. She had 2 sisters, Steno and Euryale, Gorgons like her, born from the same sea lineage, and both of them immortal, unkillable in a way Medusa never was. The 3 of them lived together after the curse, out past the edge of the known world, in a place ships didn't sail to on purpose. No temples out there, no suitors, no one traveling to look at her hair anymore. Just a woman who could never again be looked at by anyone who wanted to keep breathing, and 2 sisters who could never die, guarding her the only way they still could. It should have been the end of her story, a monster in exile, forgotten at the edge of the map. But somewhere back in the world she'd lost, a king was about to need a dead woman's head as a wedding present. His name was Perseus. A king named Polydectes wanted Perseus's mother for himself, and wanted Perseus somewhere far away, preferably dead, while he arranged it. So the king asked for an impossible gift, the head of a Gorgon, fully expecting the boy to die trying. Perseus said yes anyway. Athena helped him, The same goddess who'd made Medusa what she was now armed the man sent to kill her. First, the Grey Eye, 3 gray sisters who shared one eye and one tooth between them, passing it hand to hand in the dark. Perseus caught the eye mid-pass and refused to give it back until they told him where to find the Gorgons. Then the nymphs gave him what he'd actually need: winged sandals. A pouch that could hold a severed head without killing the person carrying it, and the cap of Hades, a helmet that made him invisible. Hermes gave him a blade that could cut through anything. Athena gave him a mirrored shield, so he'd never have to look at Medusa's face directly at all. Every piece of that arsenal existed for one purpose: to make sure the woman a goddess had turned into a weapon never got the chance to use it on the man sent to kill her. If a woman punished for a god's crime still unsettles you, subscribe and stay with me. This world only gets darker from here. He found them asleep. All 3 sisters at the edge of the world, and only one of them could actually die. Perseus never looked at her directly, not once. He watched the mirror in Athena's shield, found her reflection, and swung. 2 creatures burst from her neck the instant the blade landed: Pegasus, a horse with wings, and Chrysaor, a giant already holding a golden sword. Poseidon's children, waiting inside her the whole time, born the moment she died. Her sisters woke to the sound and came for him. He never let them see him. The cap kept him invisible the whole way out. He used her head 3 more times before he was done with it. Turned a titan to stone. Turned a sea monster to stone, saving a woman he'd marry. Turned the king who sent him on the errand to stone, along with every guest at his table. And then, when there was nothing left to kill with it, he gave the head to Athena. She fixed it to the center of her own shield. The face she'd cursed became the goddess's permanent weapon, carried into every war Athena ever fought for the rest of her existence. For centuries after, that same face, carved in stone, worked in bronze, painted above doorways, was nailed to temples and city gates across the ancient world, not to frighten enemies, to protect the people inside. They called it the Gorgoneion, the most powerful protective symbol in the ancient Mediterranean, was the face of a woman who was never protected, not once. Medusa was punished for a crime that was never hers, and then turned into a trophy for the goddess who punished her. She was never the only one the gods did this to. Some, they didn't even bother transforming first. Some, they simply opened the ground and threw straight down, into a pit with no bottom at all.